You know, what is that balance? And how we tiptoe on the tightrope of peace towards pain and back again. I remember I was in Pisa. Hey there, blessings to you. I remember I was in Pisa, Italy, and you know, this is where you have the Leaning Tower of Pisa. So we had to go see it, me and my friend. I met her, she came on the train there, and we met each other, and it was very fortunate the way that we met. She had, you know, all her gear with her. She was a real woodlander. You know, her name is Sarah, and she is a lady of the woods. She lives in the woods, you know, so she's very familiar with being in that environment. But in Pisa, Italy, we were in the city environment, so we were around, you know, neighborhoods and playgrounds and stone streets. And, you know, I was very out of my element here. You know, I don't really know the language fully. You know, I speak a little bit of Italian, but not a whole lot to get by. Still using Google Translate. But I remember during the evening, we didn't have a place to sleep. And I had my tent with me, you know, my portable tent that I was walking with. But she said, no, it's illegal. Like, they'll definitely take you away if you try to sleep out in a tent out here. I said, oh, really? She's like, yeah, that's called, like, wild camping. You can't do that. You can't do that out here. You can't camp out here. I was like, oh, so, I mean, where do we sleep? She was like, I mean, we were on a bench in the park. She was like, well, we sleep right here. I was like, oh. like, oh, okay, this is interesting. We're just gonna, okay. And I tell you, out of all the places that I have been in the world, down south in the country, South Carolina, or down in Florida, or down in Louisiana, or down in anywhere, never have I ever experienced the amount of mosquitoes that I experienced in Pisa, Italy. It was like an abundant amount of mosquitoes that night. And they were all out there. And they were just stinging us over and over again. And she was just laying down on the bench, you know, just kind of moving, shivering, kind of just, you know, it was really cold outside and the mosquitoes were just biting. And I knew from personal experience, I could not itch. I could not scratch. It was so excruciating. It was painful. But I knew that I couldn't itch and I couldn't scratch because that would only make it worse. And so all I could do was just sit in a meditative position. I couldn't lay down. I couldn't sit down. I couldn't just walk around. I just sat there. And for like 15 minutes at a time, they would bite, they would suck my blood, they would bite. And then something interesting happened after that 15 minutes. There would be 5 minutes of total numbness where my body would just go into, I don't know if it went into shock or just went into numbness or just, I felt euphoric. It was a feeling, it's very hard to explain. It was a feeling of pleasure because it was moving away from the pain. It was just in this state of bliss. It was a euphoric feeling of just, and no mosquitoes would bite me. Then after 5 minutes, they would come back. They would draw blood. They would bite. I'd made peace with the mosquitoes. I said, okay, just take my flesh. Take me. It's yours. And then after 10 or 15 minutes, it'd be numbness again. It'd be bliss again. And it would just be peace again. And I realized that it was because of the contrast that I was in that state of consciousness. That if I didn't feel that intense pain, I wouldn't feel such powerful peace. That if I didn't feel like I was about to break loose, I wouldn't feel that bountiful bliss. That if I wasn't in chaos, right, I wouldn't feel so calm afterwards. And it was the contrast that made it all possible. It was that cocktail of contrast that made it all work. And it gave me a lesson. You know, when we're always asking for happiness, always asking for this or for that, sometimes we don't know what we're asking for. And often we don't realize how powerful things could be when we have felt the opposite. How we no longer take things for granted. How we no longer have a perspective that is so slanted. We see the connection. We draw out the dots. We might even be shocked to realize that it is because we went through so much pain that life is so pleasurable for us. It is because it wasn't all just given that we no longer take it for granted. It is because we had to go through adversity that now we know the assignment. Now we are more in alignment. Now we have more peace. So thank you so much for listening. This has just been an idea that's been rolling around my mind. And I wanted to share it because there might be times in your life where you feel you can't bear it, where you feel you can't move forward, you can't go on. It's like, how do I get myself out of this situation? But if you don't fight it, if you don't be in resistance, you can become your own witness. Right? You can see that this too shall pass. Nothing lasts forever. It's temporary. It seems like your test will last forever, but it's just temporary. It seems like this torture, this agony will last forever, but it's not going to last forever. It's just like the clouds. Eventually, it's going to pass by. And when it passes by, you see differently. You see the world differently. You feel differently. You understand differently. So, I trust that this helps you, my friend. I trust that this is a word for you to understand that this too shall pass. You know, impermanence nature is something I learned from the monks and nuns that taught me how to meditate, that taught me why we suffer, that taught me that our expectation can bring a lot of frustration because we want things to be in a way that they aren't in that moment. But meditation can give gratitude, right? Just breathing can give gratitude, and it can give you an attitude to understand and just appreciate what is.